Welcome to Next Chapter Retirement, the podcast where we discuss smart strategies for building and protecting wealth, health, and well-being, helping retirees shape their next chapter into the best chapter. I'm your host, Mark Erickson, and each week we help you navigate the big decisions that shape your future, from health and financial planning to Medicare and lifestyle design and everything in between. Let's dive in.
Imagine saving up for this really lavish, pull out all the stops, 3-year vacation.
Oh, that sounds nice.
Right? You pack your bags, you board the plane, you get to your destination totally ready to celebrate. But like right after you unpack, someone knocks on your door and says, your return flight has been canceled.
Oh, wow.
Permanently. Yeah. So you aren't staying for 3 years anymore. You are now expected to survive in this totally foreign country for 30 years.
With just the stuff you brought for 3 years.
Exactly. With only the provisions you brought with you. And, well, that terrifying pivot is essentially the mathematical reality of modern retirement.
It really is. It's a sobering realization, I think, because our cultural narrative just hasn't caught up to the medical reality at all.
Yeah.
We still frame retirement as this, this ending, the gold watch, the final clock out, just one big extended holiday.
But a 3-year break and a 30-year survival project, I mean, those require entirely different logistical framework.
Completely different.
And that is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive, everyone. We are pulling from this really fascinating set of notes and excerpts titled The 30-Year Project, Strategies for Modern Longevity.
That's such a good source.
It really is. And our mission today is to completely reconstruct the way you, the listener, approach retirement planning. So we're moving away from, the standard financial advice and focusing on this surprisingly unbreakable link between your long-term personal health habits and your actual financial survival.
Because, as the sources point out, we are basically living in a longevity revolution right now.
Which sounds great, right?
It does, but it fundamentally changes the math of human life. Like, we have actuarial data now that paints a very, very different picture than the one our parents or our grandparents planned for.
Right.
For instance, currently, a 65-year-old man has a 50% chance of living to 84, and a 65-year-old woman has a 50% chance of living to 87.
And I think people hear that 50% chance and they translate that in their heads to, okay, I'll probably die around 84.
Yeah, that's a common trap.
But we need to explain the mechanics of an average here, because that's just the median. Right.
Right, exactly. It means exactly half of the people in that demographic will live even longer than that.
Wow.
So if you're part of a healthy couple today, planning for at least one of you to live well into your 90s, that isn't being overly cautious. It's just the baseline reality.
It's just the math.
Yeah. And the sources point out this really crucial detail. If you are 65, you don't smoke, you maintain, a reasonable level of activity, and you don't have a severe chronic condition.
You're already beating the curve.
You are already beating the actuarial curve.
Which is, that's great news for your social life and your family.
Yeah.
But it creates this massive, quiet risk for your bank account.
Oh, absolutely.
Because running out of money at 88 because you built a financial model designed to shut down at 80, that's a crisis that doesn't really announce itself until it's way too late to fix.
Right. You can't exactly go back to work at 88 easily.
No. Yeah. And to understand why that money drains so fast, we really need to look at the actual price tag of aging. There's this statistic in the material from Fidelity. It says a single 65-year-old retiring in 2025 will spend an average of $172,500 on healthcare alone during their retirement.
Yeah.
And for a couple, that's $345,000.
And we need to be very, very clear about what that number actually represents, because that excludes long-term custodial care.
Wait. Seriously?
Yes. We aren't talking about nursing homes or memory care facilities here. Those can easily cost over $100,000 a year just on their own.
Oh, my gosh.
Right. That $345,000 figure, we are just talking about standard healthcare out-of-pocket costs.
Okay, I have to push back on this a little bit.
Yeah.
Because it feels, it feels contradictory to how the system is supposed to work, right?
How so?
Well, if you retire at 65, you enroll in Medicare.
Yeah.
And Medicare is supposed to be the safety net.
Sure.
So if I have federal health insurance, why on earth am I still on the hook for $345,000 in healthcare bills? Like, where is that money actually going?
It's a totally valid question. And honestly, the misconception around it is pretty dangerous. Medicare is a safety net, yes, but it's a net with very, very large holes.
Okay, like what?
Well, you still have Part B premiums that get deducted from your Social Security. You have co-pays, deductibles, co-insurance. And for some treatments, co-insurance is just a straight 20% of the bill without any yearly cap.
Unless you buy more insurance.
Right. Exactly. Unless you purchase supplemental Medigap policies, which, also cost monthly premiums.
Right.
Furthermore, traditional Medicare notoriously does not cover most dental work, vision care, or hearing aids.
Which are all things you definitely need as you age.
Precisely. So if you need, say, 2 root canals, a new prescription for glasses, and hearing aids all in the same year, that is thousands of dollars completely out of pocket.
Wow.
So you just multiply those gaps across 20 or 30 years, factor in medical inflation, and boom, that is how you arrive at $345,000.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if healthcare is going to be the single biggest threat to this money, then how do the sources suggest we actually protect the portfolio? I mean, it can't just be the standard eat your vegetables and exercise lecture.
Yeah.
There has to be a tactical application here.
There is. And what's fascinating here is the tactical application is literally treating your physical fitness as a direct, measurable strategy to protect your investment portfolio.
Like treating your body as a financial asset.
Exactly. The sources reframe this not as a wellness routine, but as a financial audit. They outline this health habits checklist for financial stability. And the whole underlying premise is that every dollar you don't have to spend managing a preventable illness is a dollar that stays invested.
Compounding for your later years.
Yes.
So what is actually on this checklist? Because if I'm, taking this seriously, I need to know the daily deliverables.
The first one is physical activity, but again, framed financially. The sources argue you need to treat a daily walk or a strength training session with the exact same gravity as a portfolio review with your wealth manager.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah. The second one is actively managing weight and stress, because those are the primary drivers of the chronic diseases that drain portfolios. Things like type 2 diabetes or hypertension.
Right. The things that require constant medication and monitoring.
Exactly. And the third item on the checklist, which is heavily underutilized, is maximizing preventive care.
Meaning like annual wellness visits and screenings.
Yes. Medicare fully covers a lot of annual wellness visits and preventative screenings. I mean, you've paid into the system your whole life, yet people routinely wait until a joint completely fails or a metabolic system crashes before they go to the doctor.
Right. They wait for the emergency.
Yeah. But preventive care is the mechanism you use to keep the machine running smoothly before it requires an expensive overhaul.
I see where this is going. We always hear financial advisors talk about compound interest, right? Like start saving early. Let the interest build on the interest.
The eighth wonder of the world, yeah.
Right. So if I'm understanding the sources correctly, they are basically describing the biological version of compound interest.
Yes, exactly.
Like a 1% improvement in your cardiovascular capacity at age 60 compounds over decades, so you aren't paying for some massive $50,000 medical intervention when you're 80.
That concept of biological compounding is central to this entire philosophy because think about the nature of your financial portfolio.
Okay.
No matter how well you plan, your money is ultimately at the mercy of market forces, right? Global inflation, interest rate hikes. You have zero control over what the S&P 500 does today.
Unfortunately, yeah.
But your daily health habits, that is an asset class you have direct, granular control over every single morning.
Oh, that's powerful.
Right. If daily stress management prevents a cardiac event, you haven't just saved your life. You have preserved tens of thousands of dollars in medical costs, which preserves your financial options for the final decade of your life.
All right, so if we are successfully treating our health as a financial asset, we still need to warehouse the money for the health costs we inevitably just can't prevent.
Yes, the unavoidable stuff.
Right. And the sources highlight one specific tool for this, but it comes with a massive flashing red warning light. So let's talk about the health savings account, or the HSA.
Yeah. If you're still working and you have access to a high-deductible health plan, the HSA is arguably the most powerful tax advantage tool in the U.S. tax code.
Which sounds wild.
It features what's known as a triple tax advantage.
Okay, that sounds like a financial cheat code. Walk us through the actual mechanics of how that works. Like, why is an HSA better than a standard 401k or an IRA?
Well, with a traditional 401k, the money goes in pre-tax, right?
Right.
But you pay ordinary income tax when you pull it out in retirement.
Right.
With a Roth IRA, it's the reverse. You pay taxes up front, but then it grows and comes out tax-free.
Okay, so the HSA combines them.
Exactly. It gives you the best of both worlds. The money goes in pre-tax, which directly lowers your taxable income for the current year.
Nice.
Then, once it's inside the account, it grows completely tax-free. And here's the kicker. As long as you use the funds to pay for qualified medical expenses, which you will definitely have plenty of, the money comes out completely tax-free.
Triple tax advantage. Wow. But I think the crucial piece of the puzzle here is how people actually use it. Because I know people who treat their HSA just like a regular checking account.
Oh, yeah. A lot of people do.
Right, like they put a few $100 in pre-tax, and then they immediately swipe their HSA debit card at the pharmacy for like a $20 copay.
Yeah, and by doing that, they are completely missing the entire growth aspect of the triple tax advantage.
Because it never has time to compound.
Exactly. The wealth building strategy that the sources imply is to pay for your current minor medical expenses out of your normal cash flow, if you can afford it.
Just pay the $20 out of pocket.
Right. And you leave the funds inside the HSA and actually invest them in the stock market just like you would a 401k.
Oh, I see.
You let that money compound for 10, 20 years. By the time you hit your 70s and face those massive gaps in Medicare coverage we talked about, you have a dedicated six-figure bucket of completely tax-free money just waiting for you.
Which removes that terrifying scenario of having to liquidate your regular retirement investments and trigger capital gains taxes just to pay for a medical procedure.
Precisely. It's a huge shield.
Which brings us to the flashing red warning light. Because here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. This isn't just a tip, it's a ticking clock. If you're thinking, great, I'll just keep pumping money into my HSA forever, there is a strict legal deadline you have to navigate.
Yes, the Medicare trap.
The Medicare trap.
You must build this HSA fortress before you transition to Medicare, because once you enroll in any part of Medicare Part A or Part B, you are legally prohibited from contributing another dime into an HSA.
I always wondered why that rule exists. Like, if the government wants us to be self-sufficient in retirement, why ban us from saving money for health costs just because we hit 65?
It basically comes down to IRS tax policy regarding double dipping.
Okay.
To contribute to an HSA, the law requires you to be enrolled in a high-deductible health plan. The assumption is that you are taking on significant financial risk up front.
Right, because the deductible is so high.
Exactly. But once you're on Medicare, the government is heavily subsidizing your health coverage. So the IRS essentially says, look, we are already providing you with federal health care entitlements. We aren't also going to give you the ultimate tax shelter on top of it.
Got it. So they cut you off.
Yes. Now, the funds you already invested in the HSA, those are yours to keep. You can spend those tax-free forever. But the door to add new money is permanently locked the exact month your Medicare coverage begins.
So the real takeaway for anyone in their 50s or early 60s is to check your HSA status immediately. Max it out, invest the funds, and let the biological compounding and the financial compounding work in tandem.
Absolutely.
Now let's pivot a little from hoarding the money to actually spending it. Because the major flaw in traditional retirement planning is budgeting for a 30-year span as if every single year is going to look exactly the same.
Oh, yeah. It's the danger of flatline planning.
Right.
The sources make a really compelling case that a 30-year retirement isn't just a monolith. It's broken into 3 very distinct phases, and each of them has wildly different financial and physical realities.
And they call these the go-go years, the slow-go years, and the no-go years.
Yes.
So the go-go years, that's usually your 60s and early 70s. You have the health, the mobility, the newfound free time. You're tackling big home renovations, traveling internationally, diving into extensive hobbies.
You're active.
Right. So because you're highly active, your capital output is high.
Yeah.
Spending is often higher here.
And if we look at the mechanics of pacing this out, flatline planning is incredibly destructive for this.
Because you're assuming an average spend for all 30 years.
Exactly. Think of navigating retirement like driving a car through a mountain range.
Okay.
If you put the car on cruise control at 60 miles an hour and just refuse to adjust for the terrain, you're going to either burn out the engine on a steep incline or fly off a cliff on the way down.
That cruise control analogy makes perfect sense, especially when you hit the second phase, the slow-go years. So that's usually mid-70s to early 80s.
Yeah.
You are still independent, you're still sharp, but the terrain changes, right?
Right.
You naturally pace yourself. You might trade the 3-week, European backpacking trip for, I don't know, a week at a quiet beach house.
Yeah, it's the era of simplification. People often downsize their housing, which reduces upkeep costs. Consequently, spending typically dips during this phase.
And I imagine the dip is psychologically difficult for a lot of retirees to accept.
It really is. A lot of people fear they're somehow failing at retirement because they aren't doing as much.
Like they're wasting it.
Exactly. But recognizing the slow-go years as a natural restorative phase is vital because it prepares you for the final phase, which is the no-go years.
Which sounds a bit grim, but it's just reality.
It's just the later stage of life where mobility naturally decreases, and comfort, support, and professional care become the absolute priority.
And this is where the spending curve, which dipped during the slow-go years, spikes aggressively upward again, right?
Yes, entirely due to advanced healthcare and assistance needs.
So if someone plans a flat budget for all 30 years, what's the danger there? You just end up with two tragic extremes.
Pretty much. Either you underlive your go-go years, like you're so terrified of running out of money that you sit at home checking your portfolio instead of taking the trips while your knees still work.
Right.
Or you spend freely assuming your costs will never change, and you crash the car when care costs skyrocket in the no-go years.
So your physical health dictates how long the go-go years last, and your financial plan dictates what you can afford to do during them.
Exactly. Match your financial decisions to the phase you're actually in. But, there is a third pillar to this 30-year project, and it actually has nothing to do with money or physical mobility.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. We've mapped out how to protect the body and the bank account, but we really have to address what happens to the mind. Because all the financial planning in the world means absolutely nothing if your daily calendar is empty.
Yes. This is where the longevity revolution gets really psychological. Because for decades, our entire framework has been based on what we are retiring from.
Right.
I mean, we spend years daydreaming about walking away from the commute, the difficult boss, the endless emails, and of course, the alarm clock.
Oh, absolutely. And escaping those things provides this massive, massive surge of relief.
But the sources highlight a highly predictable, incredibly dangerous psychological wall that most retirees hit right around month 3 or 4.
Yes. The vacation feeling wears off.
The honeymoon phase just crashes.
Hard. The garage is finally clean, you've played 100 rounds of golf, you've slept in, and suddenly you wake up on a random Tuesday in November, and the silence is just deafening.
Because for 40 years, your career provided built-in structure.
Yeah. People relied on you, you had a title. Now you have to look around and ask, who am I now, and what does today actually matter?
And I think people dismiss this as just a bit of boredom or maybe some existential angst, but the sources frame it as a literal biological imperative.
It is.
Having a sense of purpose and strong social connections, they aren't just feel-good bonuses. They are among the strongest predictors of actual longevity.
The underlying mechanism here is the physiological response to isolation. When a human being feels useless or chronically isolated, the brain processes that as a threat state.
Like you're in danger.
Yes. Cortisol levels, your stress hormones spike, chronic inflammation increases, and that actually accelerates cognitive decline and cardiovascular disease.
Wow.
So this isn't just about finding a hobby to pass the time. A lack of purpose acts on the body much like a disease.
So the most successful retirees don't just retire from something, they proactively retire to something.
Yes, that is the crucial pivot. They keep a foot in the door of engagement, they consult part-time, they mentor younger professionals, or they dive into a cause or volunteer somewhere that actually requires them to show up on time.
It's so true. I mean, the retirees who struggle the most are often the ones with massive 8-figure bank accounts, but absolutely zero plans for a random Tuesday afternoon.
Exactly. The money wasn't the failure point, the empty calendar was. Which is why an active social calendar is an essential requirement for emotional well-being. Isolation is just a portfolio killer.
So to build a robust emotional framework, the sources suggest treating your social life with the exact same strategic planning as your asset allocation.
Yes. And they provide 3 vital questions to audit this.
Right, let's go through these. Sometime today, if you're listening and plotting out this 30-year journey, you need to answer these 3 things honestly.
Number 1, what gives your week structure?
Number 2, who are you going to see regularly outside of your immediate household?
And number 3, what are you working toward that you actually care about?
If you can't answer those questions, your 30-year project is structurally unsound. I mean, your social calendar and your sense of purpose are the load-bearing walls of your emotional well-being.
If we connect this back to the bigger picture, your social calendar is just as critical to your emotional well-being as your investment portfolio is to your financial well-being. Without them, the entire enterprise collapses under the weight of its own isolation, no matter how well-funded the trust account is.
All right, let's pull all of this together. We started with the concept of retirement that looked like a short celebratory break.
Yeah.
And we've completely reconstructed it into a 30-year survival project.
A revolution, really.
Yes. We explored how biological compounding, like treating a daily walk as a serious financial strategy, literally protects your nest egg from that massive $345,000 healthcare gap.
Yep.
We unpack the mechanics of the HSA and why you must build that tax-free shield before Medicare permanently locks the door.
The ticking clock.
The ticking clock. We map the terrain of the go-go, slow-go, and no-go years so you don't burn out the engine or fly off the cliff with a flat budget. And finally, we established that an active social calendar isn't a luxury. It is a literal biological requirement for life extension.
It really requires a total paradigm shift. And to move this from theory into practice, there is a specific exercise from the source material that everyone listening needs to perform this week.
Ooh, action item.
Yes. Sit down with a pen and literally write out the specific age you are building your financial and life plan around. If the number you write down is under 90, you need to aggressively reconsider your math based on the longevity revolution we discussed today.
Because the averages have changed.
Exactly. Once you establish that new realistic number, run the audit. Ask yourself, if I live to 95, does my current plan hold up? Does the money last through the no-go years? And just as importantly, does the purpose last?
It's an intimidating audit, I won't lie. But it is the only way to guarantee your independence for the long haul. And I want to leave you with a final lingering thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your week.
Okay.
If physical health and deep social connections are mathematically proven to protect your wealth, lower your cortisol, and extend your lifespan, well, then calling up an old friend to go for a long walk this weekend isn't just a nice way to kill an hour.
No, it's not.
It might actually be the single most lucrative financial investment you make all year. So what does your portfolio of friendships look like right now? Keep that in mind next time you think about packing your bags for this 30-year trip. Catch you next time on The Deep Dive.
Thank you for listening to the Next Chapter Retirement Podcast. Please like and subscribe and share this with anyone planning their next chapter. For help navigating Medicare, you can find helpful resources and connect with our team at nextchapterpod.com. Until next time, plan wisely and live fully.